one of my most favorite videos to make. This is Nick at Night. As always, we're going to be sipping our coffee the whole time, so apologize for that. Coffee brought to you by Tim Hortons. Here's my little Tim cup right here. So, Travis, here you go, bud. All right. So this is the video series where we go over and we talk about the books we picked up the past week. Lots of books, man. June 16th, 2021. Tons of books. As always, we start with our DC Marvel. Starting with Marvel. Why don't we look into it? So we have Venom. Venom 200, big issue, right? Coming off of an amazing run from Donny Cates. I really liked King in Black. Most of you know that I started collecting about 5 years ago. So my knowledge of all these classic characters is, fairly limited, and I kind of stick to indies. Most of my reading is indie books. So, I don't have a whole lot to go off of when I read Venom. So I liked the Cates run. I think a lot of us do. So, but that's kind of the theme that I have for most books. If I'm reading an X-Men book, that's pretty much the only X-Men book I've read. Daredevil's the same way. Name it. Name any classic superhero. Batman, Catwoman. Those are my frames of reference, the current run stuff. So, go easy on the guys that don't have all the knowledge that some of the other people have. That's all I can say. Anyway, Venom 200, man. I really liked it, actually. It's an oversized issue, many different artists, decent recap of what happened after King in Black. So, non-spoilery. Eddie's just trying to figure out what the next step is. Being the god of symbiotes is really kind of tiring, wearing him down, aging him very, very quickly. So, it's not something that he can really sustain. We know that Dylan had symbiote powers as well. And so, I think a logical progression for the story is maybe someone to take over the mantle. Is it going to be Venom? Is it going to be called Venom? Who knows? Or we're going to see what Al Ewing and Ron V do with the character. And, we'll kind of go from there. It's a cool story about, how Dylan's handling the aftermath of King in Black, how Eddie's doing it. He's got some cool interactions with Spider-Man. Spider-Man's like both really impressed and yet scared at the same time, and really confused about Eddie's new powers and how he can kind of be everywhere at once. They do set up a possible threat later. So Eddie's kind of going around trying to warn these other people that, hey, this is probably going to be a threat coming soon, based on what I've seen this person do. So, cool little way to wrap up the whole story. I've enjoyed the run. King Black was interesting for me. I liked how they set up, maybe the ongoing series that's going to be coming out soon in the fall. So yeah, Venom 200, extra sized issue. Doesn't take a whole long time to get through it because it reads really, really quick. And I enjoyed the run overall. And it's a square bound book. Pretty interesting. There's some really cool covers. If I could have gone back, I would have gotten the Gleason, because the Gleason cover's fire. Loved it. Venom 200. I'm going to miss it. Because it's like Venom, Thor, Immortal Hulk, like all those kind of books came out around the same time, I feel like. And a lot of them are kind of coming to an end. And it's sad, but it's okay. They're all really good. Okay, what else we got? Keeping the Marvel theme going. Heroes Reborn 7. So Jason Aaron, I am not ashamed to say that I've been loving Heroes Reborn. Again, I don't want to hear it's not a good run. I don't want to hear, my frame of reference is wrong, because this is how I feel about the story. And I've been liking it, man. It's coming out weekly. It's interesting. It started off more of like a House of M. I'm the only one, like a Wolverine thing. Like I'm the only one who remembers how it used to be, and I got to convince everybody that something's wrong. We kind of got away from that in the first issue, and we touched on it every single issue since, in a way. But more and more people, the Avengers, are starting to remember that something's wrong. And we have the Squadron Supreme about to face off with the Avengers. So, not too big of a spoiler because we all saw this coming. This issue, they all kind of meet face to face. And the next issue, they're probably going to fight. So we had some really, really interesting dialogue in here. I've enjoyed it. I've loved the art. I've loved the story progression. I love the different characters. I've had a blast with Heroes Reborn. So The pacing of it's really good. It's coming out every single week. I can't wait for, what is it, Heroes Return, something like that, coming out next. And the covers are all connecting. So that's really, really cool. The first 4 and the last 4 are all going to be connecting covers. So yeah, I've really liked Heroes Reborn. So I would give it a shot. And I think issue 5, I really like the Rocket Raccoon and Groot gun issue because I thought it was really clever and I love the art. All right, Planet Size X-Men. So you guys know I'm not reading X books. This is pretty much the first X book I've picked up and read in a very long time. I think I gave like some Marauders and some X-Force or whatever books a chance back before 10 of Swords or X of Swords, and wasn't too impressed. So I went ahead and picked this one up because it was Planet Size #1. Another book that had some great covers, but I prefer cover A over all of them. And I was completely lost as far as, you know, why they were doing the things they did in this one. This is kind of a launching point for the future. So I think this is a good issue to jump in on if you haven't been reading X-Men. You will be confused. You will be there for a creation story, and you will be there for, you know, the some of the gala stuff too, right? So I think this is a good place to jump on because I'm hoping that they're just going to build off of this in the new X-Men run coming out. And, you know, the art's good. It's just kind of, you know, kind of wrapping up this era, I suppose. I don't know. Again, it's all about kind of creation and starting over and kind of setting the foundation for the future. So this seemed like a good jumping on point. I didn't know a lot of the characters because they're not, maybe they are, but they're not to me like classic X-Men characters. I'm looking around thinking, I don't know who that is. I don't know who that is, but there's plenty of other people in here that we all know and love. And so I'm going to be excited going into the new X-Men #1 coming out soon. Kind of seeing where it goes now that we have this issue out. So hopefully it builds on it in a nice, clear way. And hopefully it's a good jumping on point for other people. But yeah, Planet Size #1, not too bad. Not too bad. I was still confused, but I mean, you're going to be confused when you jump in, you know, when you already have this much history and these many different characters. Anytime you jump into a thing like that, you're going to be confused for a few issues. Kind of like when I jumped in on Spawn at 316 or whatever I did. I jumped in Spawn and there's like 5 different Spawns and they're all fighting each other. And after a while you just go, okay, they're all fighting each other, whatever. Cover of the month, Catwoman, that Frizon variant, 32, Ramvi, great. So this book kind of picks up, what's his name, Father Valley. Father Valley has kind of gotten one of Selena Kyle's crew guys, and he is being interrogated. They want to know who Selena Kyle is. They want to know more about her. This issue kind of goes more into her background. It goes into some of the jobs and missions that she had when she was younger, different people that she interacted with. There's even a story in here when she was a little girl and how she helped out the bosses at the time back then. And so it was really kind of a setup book to kind of just showcase how much of a badass she is. And so it was an interesting story. And I actually really, really enjoyed it. So they kind of had like an Ocean's 11 kind of like heist issue prior to this, if I remember it correctly. And then this issue is more of like a, you know, tell me who Selena Kyle is. And they go, well, let me tell you about her. Back in the day, this happened and she was like this, and this is how she handled herself and all this stuff. And it comes from the perspective of different people. So you hear a bunch of different stories. So it's all kind of like just painting this picture of how crazy she is and how great she is. So, yeah, Catwoman 32, Ramvi. I've been absolutely loving that series. All right, going on to Supergirl. This is Woman of Tomorrow. I got that blank cover. Open it up. So Tom King, really, really interesting. This is another character I don't know anything about. So we have Supergirl. I've heard lots of cool things about her. But again, this is not a character I'm extremely familiar with. I know she exists. And I'm excited to get onto a book that I like with her in it. So essentially we have this like celebration issue. We don't start off with Supergirl. It's not like she's flying around taking out villains. We have this other character whose father gets murdered, and she's trying to hire these men to go and track this guy down and kill him. And she kind of wants revenge for her father's murder. Well, she kind of comes across Supergirl here, and she's reluctant to help. She doesn't want to help. She's just kind of there to celebrate and to kind of get drunk. So she traveled to this planet just to kind of get away and get drunk. And she gets wrapped into the locals business right here. And we have something kind of interesting happen at the very end with the guy that the other girl's been tracking down that killed the father. So I don't know if I explained that very well, but essentially Supergirl's trying to get away. She gets wrapped into some locals business. And she ends up trying to help this girl whose father was murdered. And there's a confrontation with the murderer. And yeah, it doesn't quite go as planned. So I was actually kind of excited about this book. This book has been pretty good. The art was really good as well. And the line work and everything. It kind of reads like an old, it doesn't read like an old, but it looks like an old, like a piratey kind of a thing. Everyone's kind of dressed as either like barbarians or like almost like pirates at the same time. And then all of a sudden you get Supergirl in there, and you know it's her in the beginning, but you don't. You know it's her, but she's not dressed. She's wearing like this big coat, and then she gets into a fight, and like you can see her outfit kind of shining through, which is pretty cool. So I think they teased it really, really well. I'll kind of show a page. So that's what I'm talking about. If you can see, really, really cool art. Yeah. So, you know, Tom King. Doing what Tom King does. I'm excited for this, and I'm glad that I'm excited for a Supergirl book. I really want to be more excited about kind of like mainstream titles. You know what I mean? I'm glad I'm reading Catwoman. I'm glad I'm picking up X-Men now. Venom, Heroes Reborn. I mean, you know, they're all big two that are being handled well, I think. And so, yeah, I'm excited. Getting a lot of Marvel. So how many? So that was 3 Marvel, and I got, what, 4 DC books? I've changed. Nightwing 81, Tom Taylor. Another amazing Nightwing issue. Again, this is a character that I never really read, and I'm really enjoying it. So in this book here, we do have our first appearance, our first full appearance, and dialogue and fight scenes. What's his name? The Heartless? Heartless Man or something like that. I can't remember his name now that I'm thinking about it. I'm pretty sure that's what it is, though. So, yeah, just a really cool little fight. Nightwing over here is just kind of just seeing what he can do against this person, you know, kind of, you know, sparring in this fire around all these homeless kids that he set. So it's just an interesting battle to kind of sizing each other up. And so I think he kind of underestimates this guy's power, or this villain's power. And this villain actually sets a trap for him, and he relies on the city to kind of help him out. So it was pretty cool to see that response, see how the Bat family is helping out as well. And, you know, he's still recovering from being shot in the head and all of his memory loss and stuff. So he's not really thinking straight. And so he's just really interested in getting back up and not really resting. And he gets himself into more trouble because of that. And at the end of this issue, we get a major reveal, or don't we? We don't know. It's one of those moments where, you know, is it true? Is it not? This big reveal at the end. So we got a big cliffhanger at the end. Really good story. Yeah, Tom Taylor, Nightwing. I never would have thought I would be reading a Nightwing book, but the last several that he's taken over has been absolutely amazing. So I've been loving this. So if you're thinking about getting Nightwing, or you've been hearing about it, it's worth it. Check it out. All right. So last DC book is Static #1. So this is season 1, Milestone Returns, first issue, Static #1. This is cover A, I believe. And I feel like a broken record, but I don't know anything about the character. I did not read Milestone. I didn't read any other Static books. I was completely cold going into this book. I got it because it was a #1, and I like reading first issues. And I wanted to give Static a shot because it looked kind of cool when I flipped through it, and the art was good. Criss Cross is on it. Yeah, so I wanted to try it out. And man, I was pleasantly surprised. So it does a really good job. If you don't know the character, I feel it does a good job of kind of catching you up as to what this character has been into. It's not like an origin story. It's more like a, hey, this is what I'm dealing with at school. This is what I've been dealing with like bullies and my friendships and my family's involved. So it does a really good job of kind of catching you up as to what's been going on. And maybe this stuff was all covered in Milestone. I don't know. But you know, maybe they're just doing a couple pages of recap for those folks who've seen that, and then they needed something for folks like me who didn't know what was going on. But we do have a lot of problems with the bully in school. That person's also superpowered, and so we have a nice, really, really cool fight there between those guys, which leads to a pretty catastrophic ending for the family and everything. So I'm actually looking forward to seeing what they do in this book. Again, I don't have any background with the character, but I was pleasantly surprised about how much I enjoyed the book. So Static #1 was really, really interesting to me. So if you're on the fence with that one, I'd say try it out. It's really good. All right, let's get into the indies. Going over to Resonant #10, David Andrews. So this is the conclusion to Resonant. I learned about this book on Robbie's channel, Pop Culture Philosophers. I think he had David on for, it may have been an interview for this book in particular, but it could have been just for anything else. And I really was kind of intrigued by the concept. The concept is that it's kind of a post-apocalyptic world. We follow a family who's isolated themselves, and instead of like a zombie apocalypse, what is happening is there's like this wave. They keep calling it like a wave, and it's this raw emotion that kind of flows into the land, and it completely takes you over and turns you into like a barbarian, and you'll like rip yourself apart. You'll rip each other apart. And so it's more like this emotional wave that kind of just like consumes the area, and it will pass. And some people in the area can kind of sense it coming. They realize that, like, I think it's crickets actually start chirping really violently whenever it's approaching. So it's like a warning system. So you will see a couple covers for Resonant where there's like crickets on them. And some of the people have developed ways of, mitigating this, right? And so, through like meditation or through just like strapping people down so they can't physically attack themselves or other people. So it was really an interesting thing because, the people who are alive are the people who know how to get past these waves. So you run across a lot of crazy characters in this one. There's like this cult that walks around. It's like a barbaric cult. And, you find this real church going community as well. And then there's these other people who found out that like through like raw human emotion, they can create like this safe bubble or from, keep them safe from the wave. And so like, it's just kind of a story about, this dad and his kids and their survival and interacting with the different people around. The art's really good. I will show a page because I feel like it's absolutely amazing. And I want to showcase some of the artwork that you'll see in here. The kids are really cool. I mean, it gets kind of violent and bloody still. So here's a cool little page there. Hopefully you can see it in the light. Real interesting artwork. So if you haven't tried Resonant yet, I would say check it out for sure. If you can get it in trade, if you can get it in single issues, it's really, really good. It's a vault comic. It's 10 issues. And they kind of leave it a little bit open for, maybe a second volume. So I'll be looking forward to that if it ever comes through. So yeah, Resonant was great. All right. We got Time Before Time #2. This might be the C cover, if I'm not mistaken. B or C. It's not A. But Time Before Time. So we kind of have this agency where they can go back in time and you can pay this company to relocate you. It's like I think I made this comparison before. It's like in Breaking Bad when Walter kind of just pays the guy, what was it, like 80 grand or 100 grand or something like that, to move him to Alaska or change his name or whatever. These guys do that, but with time travel. And correct me or add to that in the comments below, because I'm pretty sure that's just like their main purpose, but they might have some medicinal things too on the side, right? Like if you're sick, they can jump into the future and find some medicines and bring it back, but that might be the shady, like blackmail part of the company, because they reference that in here too, which is kind of interesting. It's like, oh, I need you to do this for me. Oh no, I don't think I'm going to do it for you. Really? Because you're, be a shame if your brother's medicine stopped. That stuff's not available to now, but in 50 years it is, and that'd be a shame, like that kind of thing. So we get a main character who's kind of sick of the job. He's kind of working off a debt somehow. They didn't really go back into that whole debt thing. He's working off some kind of debt. I don't quite know what it is. So if you remember, let me know. Anyway, he kind of gets lost in time. His machine breaks. He's with a he's with somebody who's was there on some kind of personal mission that they really haven't flushed out yet. So, you know, amongst them fighting, trying to figure out where they are, they come across this other agency who does kind of the same thing, but it sounds like they're mostly involved in a certain time period. So these guys kind of travel all over the place, but these guys kind of own this block of time. That was my perception of this, right? And so, you know, they're kind of captured. They're trying to figure out what's going on. They're trying to team up here and there. There's some backstabbing here and there. So it's been a really interesting book so far. And yeah, kind of looking forward to seeing what happens in issue 3. So yeah, if you want something different, Time Before Time is really cool. If you like the time travel, kind of like a mystery time travel kind of a book with some decent art inside of it. I'm not like super crazy about the art, but I think it works for this book. Like here's some paneling and some art right there. So hopefully you can see that. But it's not like the most detailed, but I think it works for the story. So yeah, I've had a good time with it. It's a pretty interesting story. There's a lot of like time jumping and things like that, which is kind of fun. Anyway, Time Before Time number 2. Pretty cool read, Image. All right, over to Compass from Image. This is Compass number 1, Cauldron of the Eternal Life. So interesting book. This is another one of the books that my LCS kind of just put on my radar. And they said, hey, have you heard of Compass? I said, no. And they, you know, threw it with my polls. So it was really interesting. So this is Mackenzie, who's writing this book. This is Robert Mackenzie and David Walker, art by Justin Greenwood. So it kind of starts off with like a female Indiana Jones kind of a book, and it's in Baghdad, if I'm not mistaken. So we get that classic, like, remember the boulder scene in Indiana Jones? He's trying to find that relic, and then he goes through all that hell, all those traps. He gets the relic, he gets out, and then I forget the guy's name, but he ends up stealing it at the end, and the locals all try to kill him and stuff. Very similar opening. She's breaking in, she's trying to find the relic, she gets to the location, and then boom, that other person, that like lifelong friend turned enemy kind of a thing, was there at the end to steal it, and then she has to kind of fight her way out. From there, the dialogue really kind of opens up, because the first half of this book, there's not a whole lot of dialogue. There's some interaction between our characters here a little bit, but I mean, the first few pages, there's no dialogue at all. Then the last half of the book is kind of wordy. And it almost requires a second read, because we find out that the villain, the female villain that stole the relic, is kind of part of this other tribe, and the leader's not exactly happy that this girl exists, this threat exists out there. So, you know, we don't really get a whole lot of details about that. And then our hero, you know, kind of gets washed up on the shore, and she finds her way back to the city, and she's working her way to some leaders of that city, and she's trying to kind of get back to the priests that she was with, that maybe sent her on this mission. And then we get a little villain reveal at the end of that as well. So interesting opening to the story. So if you like that kind of time period, and you like a little Indiana Jones kind of action and some mystery and things like that, I think you'll like Compass. So it wasn't even on my radar, and I'm glad I read it, because it was an interesting read. So yeah, Compass by Image. Not too bad. All right, a few more books left. We have Silver Coin number 3. This is the Ed Brierson and Michael Walsh. I'll just let you sit on that cover for a minute, because it's pretty. And the B covers are really good too. There's some cool alternates for this, and there has been. So Silver Coin. So every issue is from a different writer. Michael Walsh is still doing the art. So essentially, you have the silver coin is an object. It's literally a silver coin. It seems to be like a haunted or possessed, or, you know, whatever. It's like the devil, right? And whoever it kind of interacts with, if you're holding this silver coin, it completely changes that person's personality, either slowly or quickly. And in every single issue so far, whoever's in possession of this coin completely loses it. So in the first issue, we have this band who he kind of uses the silver coin as a pick, and he like plays himself to death, right? And then he's just like amazing, but then it's kind of like a monkey paw kind of a situation, right? It gives you everything you want, and then it kills you. The second issue, it was more about summer camp, like a girl's summer camp. This girl's being bullied, and it kind of took her over, and she ended up taking revenge. That one was a little bit weird, I thought. I understood the concept and I got where the coin fit and everything, but like it didn't feel like monkey pawish because I thought that's kind of where it was going to go every single issue. It did release like inner thoughts and inner desires, I suppose. So maybe that's where the connection is there, but it was kind of hard to kind of figure out where they were going to be going with this whole story because it's going to be a different writer every single time. So I tried to go into issue 3 thinking, okay, issue number 1, the guy kind of got everything he wanted, but it all backfired. He lost his friends, lost his own life, caused a big catastrophe. I was like, okay, so maybe that's going to be the theme. So then issue 2 comes, and then it's like, well, she's getting bullied and she takes out her revenge. So maybe it's an inner desire thing again. Okay, cool. That's a loosely connected thread. And then issue 3 comes, and we have these group of people who are essentially robbing somebody. And one of the things that they steal is one of the silver coins, and it kind of speaks to her and kind of haunts this woman until she actually gets to the end and returns the coin to the thing that's kind of been calling to her. And in doing that, she ends up losing her life too. So I'm not exactly sure. She didn't gain anything. She didn't it didn't possess her with the ability to achieve any kind of desire or goal. It was just essentially, she stole something and it was calling to her to return it to its owner, and she did, and that was it. So I don't really quite know how to fit this into the overall theme of the other 2 books. I've described this book as Image reaching out to really good writers and saying, we want each of you to write a really cool story about a haunted coin. We want everyone's first issue. And that's what they did. And then they never went back to get a second issue. And they just got everyone's first issue. They put them all down and they said, you know what, we're going to put them all out in order. And we're just going to let the audience kind of figure it out. And that's how it feels so far. I'm not saying they're bad stories. I'm just saying, man, any one of these continued would be cool. But we're not getting that. And I feel like that kind of thing works for Ice Cream Man. And I think it works for Haha, but not as well. But I feel like those books have more connective tissue to each other, even though there's not a whole lot there. These seem to be completely disparate. And I don't know what to make of it. They're all good. I just wish that they would pick one and go with it at this point. But again, there's 3 cool stories here about the silver coin. Some are better than others, but I wish there was a little bit more connective tissue there. But I'm going to keep getting them because I've enjoyed them. I'm reminded every time that comes out that, like, man, what happened to that first issue with that at the very end? Or, man, what happened to the girl at the summer camp? And now I'm going to be wondering what happened to the girl who stole the silver coin from this man. And she ended up getting killed. So, I don't know. Let me know what you think of Silver Coin. Do you guys think that, like, how many issues are we going to get? We already have 3. We're going to get, 3 more or something like that? I know they released all the writers, but I can't remember how many there were. And I know I believe Ron V's coming up soon, right? So are we going to be cool with this book 3-4 more issues in? I hope so. I mean, I'm going to get them all and read them, and I'll probably like them, but looking for some connective tissue, and it's not there, which is okay. All right, so we got Radiant Black, Kyle Higgins. So I'll tell you what I was afraid of with this book. I was afraid because of issue 1, 2, and 3 didn't have a whole lot of action. If I remember correctly, 1 was our loose origin story. 2, we had some initial battling, like power discovery and like, here's your villain, learn how to punch him kind of thing, which was okay. If I'm not mistaken, 4 was more, or 3 or whatever like that was more character driven. It was more like about his writing and about, kind of figuring things out emotionally and mentally. And then 4 was a lot more battling and some cool reveals. And so 4 is what really kind of picked it up for me. And I'm glad it did because this book has been not as good as I was hoping leading up to issue 4. Issue 5 continues that theme from issue 4, that momentum, and it just blows it forward. And it's really cool. And it also really kind of opens up the greater story arc. It's not just about this blue guy we call Radiant Black versus this red villain. There's a greater threat. There's more allies that we're introduced to. It's kind of like Invincible where, we have Invincible and he's doing his thing. He's fighting his guys, but then he finds this other team, you know what I mean? And they're like, hey, you know, come hang out with us, and we're superpowered too, and we're kind of just like you, and you know, there's other threats out there. Let's go team up together. We get it. It's that same kind of vibe here. And then I guess we meet our ultimate villain too in this one. We kind of meet our end game villain. So if you liked the more action-packed, fast-paced issue 4, this issue 5 carries that forward and then just, you know, runs with it and then adds more story to it. So really, really liked issue 5. So thank God issue 5 came out, because that book was getting a little bit stagnant for me. So Laila Starr, man. Laila Starr number 3, The Many Deaths of Laila Starr. Ram V. I love the book. Essentially, she is the goddess of death, and she is fired because there is a child born who will grow up and prevent death. You know, create immortality. So why do you need a goddess of death? So Laila Starr is the name of a woman, or a girl, who actually commits suicide. And as the goddess of death is being sent down to earth to live out the rest of her days because she no longer has a job, she takes over the body of Laila Starr. So her main objective initially is to find this kid and kill it, because the kid hasn't invented death yet. It's just a baby. She can't do it. She gets into trouble and she dies. And then she's brought back to life by the goddess of life. Some time passes between those incidents, and the child kind of grows up and she interacts with them again, kind of learns some lessons about family and life and love and loss, things like that, these like life lessons. And then she ends up getting killed again. Goddess of life brings him back. The Many Deaths of Laila Starr. And so I think in every issue, and I'm trying to piece this all together, whenever she dies, there's a certain amount of time that passes. It appears to be a few years, right? I think the first time we see the kid, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think we keep seeing the kid every time, right? And the boy who's going to prevent death. We keep seeing him, but it seems like, I don't know, several years pass. It's a baby, maybe like 9 years old or something like that, and then maybe like 16 years old. And so every time she dies, a significant amount of time passes. She interacts with the people. She learns a little bit more about love and loss and death and life, and then she ends up dying somehow again. So this is no different. So we get to learn a little bit about friendships and love and jealousy and things like that. So the perspective of this book, about half the perspective, is through the perspective of a cigarette. So, you know, something that burns hot and burns fast, right? So kind of like youth and love. So yeah, really, really interesting book. So this is Ram V doing what he does best. And there's some really cool artwork in here as well. And the coloring is just really, really great. I'll give you a little page of some of the coloring. Very, very interesting. This book also comes in a foil, different cover. Cover B is the foil. Really, really enjoying Laila Starr. So yeah, that's one of the best books out there for Boom by far. So pick up Laila Starr. I'm absolutely loving it. All right, last book. We have Matt Kent. We have Keanu Reeves. This is BRZRKR number 3. I'm seeing a lot of hate for BRZRKR, and I mean, I think it's warranted, but I also think, you know, this book, it's developing a little bit more depth to it. So is it a gore fest? Is it just, you know, action packed? Absolutely. I mean, the first several pages, I mean, the very first panel in this book is like heads on spikes, body parts laying around, and BRZRKR just running through, chopping people in half with axes. But in this issue, we're exploring more about what all that it's doing, what that is doing with our main character. He's kind of realizing that he's just a, you know, he's just a weapon. I think he keeps saying, is that all I am? Just a weapon, just a tool, you know, a means to the ends for his father. His father's kind of gotten bloodthirsty. He's gotten used to having this ultimate weapon on his side. He's taking over all the tribes in the area, any kind of threat whatsoever, just to expand his own tribe. And so over time, this is really kind of wearing on our main character here. And, he's remembering more and more about his past. And so during his therapy sessions, his therapist is trying to talk to him, like, what do you remember? What are all the details? And I think he kind of leaks out that, he was born from a god based on some kind of ritual his mom did. And so, they're trying to figure out, okay, we need exact details of where this cave is, what kind of rituals they were performing, things like that. So I'm thinking that the main objective here, this main team that is hired, that is kind of owns BRZRKR, they're trying to either recreate him or do something. They want to learn more about the supernatural power that brought him to be. And so, it's really interesting. So I think issue 3 is more diving into, what this bloodthirst, what his father's mission is actually doing to him psychologically. And we get to learn a little bit about the motives of, his therapist and the people that they work for. So I think there's a story there. There's a story slowly unfolding underneath all this carnage and blood and gore and everything else. It's taken 3 issues to kind of shine the light on that a little bit more because, in the first couple issues, it's all about the therapist and him interacting. What do you remember? Things like that, go on the mission and kill everybody. Well, yeah, so we did that. So issue 3 is kind of hinting at, hey, this guy's really, really unstable. He's becoming unstable when he's younger. Something's going to happen to wipe his memory. And we're going to be fast forwarding thousands of years or whatever to the current day. But we're starting to learn the motives of the people that he's working for. And they don't seem to be that great. So, maybe it's just taking forever to get to the point. And they're kind of delaying it just by using tons of gore. Either way, I'm liking it. I don't really care how slow they take this book, honestly, because I'm having fun reading it and I'm having fun watching all the paneling and the art. So they can do whatever they want. That's okay. So, that's all the books I got. That was a lot. That was a lot of books. So tell me what you guys liked the most. I think I was pleasantly surprised with Static. Pleasantly surprised with Radiant Black. A lot of the other books were right on par. I knew Venom was going to be good. I've really enjoyed Heroes Reborn. Planet Size, I was hoping wouldn't be too confusing, but it was, and I expected that, and that's fine. Catwoman has been right on par. I was happily surprised with Supergirl as well. Nightwing has been solid. Resident was a nice, satisfying conclusion to that story. Time Before Time, it's not bad. If I had to drop any of the books, it probably would be that one, and Compass. But there's still decent continuations of the story, and then Compass was an interesting introduction at least. But if I had to drop any of these books, it'd probably be Time Before Time and Compass. And we'll see where Silver Coin goes, even though I just know that they have such talented people coming up, and I'm not going to miss it, but dang, I want some connective tissue. And then Laila Starr is brilliant, and BRZRKR is just a fun read. It's like the Spawn of all the books, right? It's just like, just give me a bunch of action, give me some cool art, and just try your best to give me a good story at the same time. So yeah, well, those are all the books I read this week. Which ones did you read? Which ones did you enjoy? Did you agree? Did you disagree with any of the comments I had here? Is there anything I did wrong? Any corrections that you want to give me? Let me know down below. I'm human. I make errors just like you do, and I'm perfectly fine with that. So yeah, also in the description, check out the links down below for the PCP Army Bad Batch. We have all kinds of content all the time. And also check us out on the Instagram as well. On the Instagram. I sound like I'm 50 years old. Check us out on the World Wide Web, guys. All right. That's what I got. That's what I liked. Let me know in the comments below what you thought. And while you're down there, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, and ding, ding, ding that notification bell for future videos. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the comments.